Imagine this, the insane, jaw-dropping visuals of a Hollywood blockbuster, combined with the buttery smooth, lightning-fast reflexes of a pro esports player. Forever, that's been the ultimate dream for PC gamers, right? It's always been this constant, frustrating battle between beauty and pure speed. I mean, do you go for those stunning photorealistic worlds that just pull you in? Or do you crank everything down for those super high, super responsive frame rates? For the longest time, you had to pick one. You just had to, because choosing one meant you were absolutely sacrificing the other.
So why the big trade-off? Well, it all boils down to raw horsepower. Trying to render a game at native 4K with all the eye candy turned up to max? I mean, that is just brutally demanding. Your graphics card is screaming, it's pushed to its absolute limit, and your frames per second, your FPS, just tanks. But what if there was a way to cheat the system? A new kind of tech that could just break this compromise for good.
And that's where AI upscaling comes in. Folks, this is the game changer. It's such a brilliantly clever idea. Basically, you have your graphics card do the easy part. Render the game at a lower resolution, say 1080p, and then you let a super smart, highly trained AI do the hard part, intelligently predict what that image should look like at a beautiful, crisp 4K. Okay, so how does this magic trick actually work? It's basically a four-step process. First, the game runs at a much lower, much easier resolution, right? And your FPS just skyrockets. Then the AI steps in. It doesn't just look at the still image, it analyzes motion data too, to really understand what's moving and what's not. After that, it intelligently reconstructs a brand new, high-quality frame at the high resolution you actually want. And the final result? You get that silky smooth gameplay from the low-res render, but with the absolutely gorgeous visuals you were hoping for. It's the best of both worlds. And that, right there, brings us to the main event. We've got two absolute titans of the tech world pouring a ton of resources into perfecting this exact technology, and it's led to a really fierce head-to-head competition. So let's meet our contenders. All right, in one corner, we've got Nvidia's DLSS 4.5. Now, its secret weapon is something called a new Gen 2 transformer model. The simple way to think about it is this. It's an AI that isn't just making still pictures look sharper. No, it's totally obsessed with understanding motion. So things like smoke, sparks, explosions, fast-moving characters, they look incredibly clear. Then, in the other corner, you have AMD's FSR 4.0, and this is a huge deal for them, because for the very first time, they're using actual machine learning. This is promising a massive, massive leap in their image quality. Okay, so all that tech sounds really impressive on paper, right? But the real question is, how does it actually look in a real game? Well, we're going to put them to the test, side by side in a visual showdown to see who really delivers. So first up, let's check out balance mode. Now this is kind of the sweet spot. It's the setting that a lot of gamers are going to pick because it's supposed to give you the best of both worlds, a really nice boost in performance, but without a huge noticeable hit to the visual quality. And you know what? Right out of the gate, AMD's FSR 4.0 is surprisingly competitive. The overall detail looks great. It's really, really close. But the second you start pixel peeping, when you look really closely at those fine repeating textures, like say roof tiles, that's where you start to see the difference. DLSS manages to keep those tiles looking sharp and individual. But with FSR, they get a little soft. They start to blend together. And this is our first big clue about the strengths and weaknesses of each. All right, time to crank up the difficulty. Let's switch over to Ultra Performance Mode. Now, this is where the AI really has to work for its money. We're talking about taking a super low-res image, sometimes as low as 720p, and trying to build a 4K image out of it. This is where we're going to see the cracks start to show.
And yeah, this is where that small gap in quality becomes a massive chasm. With FSR 4.0, a lot of the complex details just completely break down. Look at the water reflections. They just disappear into this weird white sheen. The rock textures get all blurry and start to look like clay. And those roof tiles we were looking at before, they're basically just a flat, textureless surface now. Now, to be clear, DLSS 4.5 isn't perfect here either. It's definitely a step down in quality. But, and this is the key part, it hangs on to the important information. You can still tell it's a rock. You can still make out the tiles. Now, let's be totally fair here. Neither of these technologies is perfect when you push them to this absolute extreme. Both of them start to show some ghosting artifacts, which is kind of that faint trail you see behind moving objects, and both of them can start to look a little bit I don't know, artificially sharp, a little grainy, as the AI is just struggling to fill in so much missing data. So the big point is, while DLSS definitely holds together better, these are some fundamental challenges that both technologies face at this crazy level. So, okay, we've seen what happens. But now for the really interesting question, why does it happen? Why does one of these technologies hold up so much better when you put it under pressure? Well, the answer isn't in the game itself. It's in how these AIs are built from the ground up. So let's just break it all down. The clear winner for pure raw image quality, especially when it comes to those tricky fine textures, that's Nvidia's DLSS 4.5, no question. But the award for most improved has got to go to AMD. FSR 4.0 is just a monumental leap forward for them. So yeah, Nvidia's still in the lead, but the big takeaway is that this race is getting so much closer. And the biggest reason for Nvidia's lead right now, it's not just about better code or better software. It's actually something much deeper than that. Their real secret weapon isn't even something you install on your computer. It all comes down to data. See, Nvidia has spent years and years feeding its AI models this just enormous diet of super high resolution images and video. We're talking 4K, 6K, even 8K stuff. They've essentially given their AI a PhD in what things in the real world are supposed to look like. And here's why that's so important. It's a pretty logical process when you think about it. First, the AI studies what a real roof tile or a real rock face or real water looks like in pristine, perfect detail. Then, when it sees a blurry, low-res version of that in a video game, it recognizes the pattern. And finally, and this is the magic part, it reaches into its huge visual library from all that training data and rebuilds the texture with incredible accuracy. That's why the roof tiles hold up. The AI just knows what a roof is supposed to look like. So, okay. Nvidia has a lead today, but this tech war is moving at absolute light speed. This race is so far from over, and AMD has a very clear path forward if they want to catch up. For AMD, the to-do list is pretty clear. First off, they've got to get FSR 4.0 into way more games so more people can actually use it. They also probably need to work with game developers to make the settings in the menu a little clearer, because sometimes it can get confusing. And of course, the big one. They have to just keep feeding and refining that new machine learning model to shrink that final quality gap. So what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, for one, that old, frustrating choice between quality and performance, it's pretty much over. AI upscaling is here, and it's here to stay. Right now, DLSS 4.5 is the king when it comes to fine detail and motion clarity. But FSR 4.0's incredible improvement has turned this into a real competitive race. Nvidia's big advantage, for now, comes from all that training data. But you know who the real winner is in all of this? It's us. It's the gamers. Because this kind of intense competition is just fantastic news for everyone. And that just leaves us with one last question to think about. Today, that quality gap is built on a foundation of data and years of training time. But as AI models get smarter and more efficient, and as building these huge data sets becomes easier and cheaper, that gap could close really, really fast. So the question isn't if AMD can close the final gap and claim the AI crown, it's when.
If you enjoy this video, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell to the later update from my channel. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you in the next video.